Let's face it, our lives are hectic. Our minds are always thinking too much, too fast, and we're always thinking too far ahead. The activities of living keep us occupied and distracted so much that often we dismiss the importance of the more simpler, beautiful things found right in our backyards. Today, we're throwing it way back to where it all began, as we'll be talking healing in the form of ecotherapy with guest entrepreneur Lindsay Cray of Ecotherapy in Rochester, New York, singer-songwriter Zahaya Roll. I'm Amanda Ashley, and this is episode 53, Healing. Welcome to Afternoon Cocktail.
I'm so strung out over. I'm so strung out over. I'm so strung out over. I'm so strong. I'm so strong. Be heart so sore from pain. I'm roaming down this path again. I can't seem to get back in. Maybe someone will help me. Falling and I don't know why. All you did was pass me by. Maybe it's the love I gave. Maybe it's the price I paid wasn't good enough. But now I see your colors, they wasn't meant for me. I would have treated you so good, you know I'm right. I would have loved you forever, just stay the night. What? Your love can be so cruel sometimes, but I'm still strung out over you. And you may think my colors run too deep, but I'm still strung out over you, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Sing it with. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strong. I'm so strong. With every word, you've got me hooked. I'm never feeling blue. I can't believe there was a time I turned my back on you. It's funny how some people try to make it out like I could be some crazy fool for even trying to believe in you. Listen, say, your love can be so cruel sometimes, but I'm still strong out over you. And you may think my colors run too deep, but I'm still strung out over you, baby. Oh, baby, baby. Oh, baby. Say, I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung. I'm so strung out. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung out over you. I'm so strung out over. I flip it and I say I'm so strong now 'cause of you. I'm so strong now 'cause of you. I'm so strong now 'cause of you. I'm so strong. I'm so strong now.
Ooh, Z, killing us with those smooth jams this afternoon. Thanks, girl. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks so much for being on our show. So, Zahaya, for those that are a little less fortunate not to know you outside of our Rochester network, could you tell our audience a little bit about your music? I mean, about you, where your musical journey began?
Yeah. So it started when I was honestly about 3. My dad is a jazz musician, and I pretty much consider him my hero. I look up to him so much, and I just wanted to be like him. And he started teaching me how to play piano when I was about 3 or 4 years old. He said I'd just run up to it and I would just start banging on it, and he's like, "That's the
Mhm.
C note," and it all just kind of went from there. Did band, played flute for like 15 years, and started writing, composing. Um, yeah, and it's just
Yeah,
been,
and now all those, I mean, the song that we just heard, that is those that backtrack that you're singing to, you produced yourself, correct?
yes, yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. I was saying this last night during our sound check. Like, I'm so jealous. I wish I could do that. I think that's the coolest thing to be able to produce your own tracks like that. And yeah, it's just a different part of music that I think sometimes gets overlooked. You know, the production quality of songs, like how much goes into it's a composition. You know, like no matter how you look at it and break it all apart, you're adding all those layers yourself. Do you kind of just write as you go?
It starts from different places. This one started with the beat. Like it's always, something. Like I might get inspired just from a bass line or just from a couple of chord changes where I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to throw like a 13th chord in somewhere here? Like, so it comes from various places, or even just the lyrics. It might just start from a lyric. Or
No, you mentioned your father. Have the two of you ever tried writing anything together, or have you ever tried throwing him on a track?
I have never gotten him on a track, but we've shared the stage a few times. So
That's so
that,
awesome.
yeah, it's been cool. And at one point, I had 3 generations because my daughter also plays music. So my dad, myself, and my daughter were all jamming at one point, and that was fun. But he doesn't live in Rochester, so it's not as easy.
Where is he?
He's in the Catskill area. Uh,
Okay, and that's where you're from. You said you're from kind of like Hudson Valley area.
I,
Um,
I'm
I
up in,
love it. It's so beautiful out there.
yeah,
Talking about nature, I mean, seriously, like that's you'll see some of the most beautiful landscapes. Like driving up and down New York State, you know, like I really my appreciation for nature grew in the past 10 years, especially like as I was like going down my own like road of like self-discovery and also musically trying to discover myself. I was traveling, you know, to play shows, and the Hudson Valley, I got brought back there many times, and I have some family out that way, and it's just the foliage this time of year is like nothing can top that. Do you agree? You got to miss like certain elements of that.
yeah, no, absolutely. I actually just drive out there a lot,
Yeah.
just so I can experience. I feel like it's beginning of October is like the peak time, so it's really a big deal for me. And fall is my favorite season. Just the
It's your
cool.
birthday month too, right? October?
I.
Ah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, this is definitely hands down my favorite time of year. Always feel like it's never long enough, you know. But so, how does Zahaya differ? I can't talk today. Oh my goodness. How does Zahaya today differ from Zahaya of the past? I mean, musically, you've had quite the evolution. I was listening to some of your older tracks, and I was saying to you last night, I hear like a lot of old school Mary J. You know, you just have like a touch of hip hop. You have a touch of a lot of pop. But then you also have this rock side of you. You have so many different sides. You're so fierce, and I love that about you. I mean, what direction do you see your music, you know, taken forward, and what direction?
Yeah. I honestly have always left it open to whatever the universe decides it's gonna be. If I could be totally honest, it's just whatever it is. And like my friend brother, he's a guitar player. He always says, whatever I wake up today, that's what it's gonna be. So so, yeah, sometimes it's really my space comes from a place of like musical theater, or sometimes it comes from a more hard rock kind of vibe. Because yes, I could get down with some back in the day. I could get down with just about anything, like or even now, whether it was Marilyn Manson or Naughty by Nature, or Mary J. Blige, like you said, is just so many things to me. And I love show tunes too. So it's wherever the universe decides it wants to take me, that's where I go.
What's on your playlist currently? Like, what are you rocking out to?
Oh man, girl, it's been the Alexander Hamilton soundtrack all summer.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm like, you'll be back. All day, they're like, why, mommy?
So funny. I love that. Have you seen, you know what I just saw? The Greatest Showman. Did you see that?
Yeah, yep.
Did you like it?
You know, I didn't at first, and
Yeah.
then I had to look at it differently to really appreciate it. So,
I didn't expect it to be like I thought it was great. I think I've actually seen Hugh Jackman live. He played in a Broadway play called The Boy from Oz, and he was really impressive then. So like I knew like how outstanding his talent was. I thought the movie was good. It was definitely more contemporary and pop music that I didn't expect to hear, and I was like, okay, I like it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, it was more because of the history. I was like, wait, I don't think he was a good man, like in
Yeah.
life. So that's where like I came in with a little bias with that. But then once I was able to look at it differently and appreciate the lens that that it was really displaying, I was just then it was just like, okay. And the choreography was amazing too in that movie.
Yeah,
That's another
definitely.
I hold in my heart, choreography.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, you're such a performer. I mean, it comes across like you just come to life on stage. I mean, you've made a life and living performing music. I mean, what has this time period been like for you? I mean, you've been, I kind of know, I follow you. So, like, I know you've been very candid about, like musically, this is a tough time for all of us. I mean, what have you been doing to kind of heal your soul in the meantime while music's kind of been, up in the air?
Yeah, yeah, honestly, speaking of nature, I started gardening. That was like the thing that got me through. I think after the initial there was like 2 weeks where I was like, oh my God, I'm sleeping. This is great. Like that was a weird thing. And then after I finished sleeping, I was like, okay, no, I cannot. So I went, luckily it was springtime. So I went right outside and I started digging in the dirt, and that's how I've been coping. Really, I changed the entire landscape of my backyard, built a fire pit, started making like I got kale and all this other stuff. But yeah, that was my healing to get through the lack of performing. And really, I'm not the type of person who does well with streaming. That's I rely so much on the connection of energy between what's happening on a stage and with all the musicians and what's happening with people who are there. So it'll be interesting to see how things, progress.
Yeah, the streaming world's interesting. It's definitely something to get used to. I mean, to be honest, I mean, on this type of platform, I love it. Like I love that I could just talk. But performing wise, it is a little strange. You do as an artist rely on that instant feedback and seeing the look in people's eyes and seeing people react visually. To music, and it's hard to you don't get that when you're streaming, obviously. Um, what's going on with Silver Arrow Band? So I mean, you're quite the music businesswoman. I mean, can you tell our audience a little bit about what Silver Arrow Band is and your part in it?
Yeah. So Silver Arrow, I like to refer to it as a musical family. Even the people who don't get to perform in Silver Arrow often, like the musicians, it's a collective, music collective, and we provide a service primarily for weddings and corporate events of just bringing the party with the songs that will get people dancing on the dance floor, and that's our main goal at Silver Arrow. The My role in it is I'm like a booking and managing person, so I basically pull musicians together, help them create bonds, um, provide showcases so we can actually display the talent that we have in Silver Arrow, and communicate with clients and organize things so that they can have an amazing event with our musicians.
So, I mean, how stressed out are you right now? Like, so obviously weddings and a lot of stuff has been canceled or postponed for like years, like how do you keep yourself like sane? Like, I mean, you said gardening, but is gardening really leveling you out that well? Because maybe I should start gardening too.
All honesty, no. um, Truth be told, like this pandemic, I have battled depression in ways that I just did not expect, and that's like real talk. There's days where I just could not move from the couch, and that's not like me at all. I'm not a couch person, and yeah, it's been sad. It's sad on multiple levels because I feel like hearing my clients having to reschedule their events. Most of them are brides and grooms, and it's like, okay, so there's that level of like crushed hopes and dreams, and then there's another level of the racism and that becoming more of a conversation that people are willing to have. So then addressing my own personal traumas with racism and what some people have referred to as post-traumatic slave syndrome or things like that. So that's level 2, and then there's the other level on top of that of just the virus in itself and just feeling the energy of really the world and this state of dealing with something that's been ripped from us of our normalcy. So, oh girl, I just went on a tangent. Did I just go off on a tangent?
No, I mean, it's a healthy tangent because I mean, honestly, think about it, like how many more things could happen at once like that are like there's just so much going on like and when you try to process it all like I honestly have had a hard time. I mean, I've been able to write for this show. I've been channeling my writing for this, but in terms of writing songs, like I just don't even know where to begin, and it's like, well, do I want to sit and write 1,000 COVID songs? Not really, like that's not inspiring. I mean, it's definitely depressing, and unless you just kind of remove yourself from it for a minute, you got to turn the sound down, like on life for a minute, just to gain that like that okay, like let me find some clarity somewhere, and
Yeah.
what are you planting? What are you gardening? Tell us.
Basil, kale, cauliflower.
So you're farming.
Yeah, girl. So I was preparing for the apocalypse. I'm telling my husband, I was like, "Yo, we gotta get some goats and a chicken coop," and he's looking at me like I'm nuts. He said, "No, we're not.
We need
No."
endless supply of cauliflower. Make sure we plant the cauliflower.
Exactly. No, because cauliflower rice, that's what's up.
Oh, yeah. Nice. So are you a good cook? Do you love cooking?
No, no,
No?
I am not. I actually don't like to cook.
No
I like,
way.
I
So
don't
what are you
like,
doing with all these vegetables and
so
kale?
yeah. I could saute stuff until like, I'm great at sauteing, but I'm not the greatest cook. I've got like my 10 go-to things that I'll do, but that's about it. I'm more into like I guess, well, I do if I'm preparing for a bunch of people because it's all that same thing where I just like giving. And so if I know my family's all going to be together and we can eat together, then it makes it more enjoyable. But
Sure,
not the best.
definitely.
Yeah.
What is it about you know, not to keep focusing on gardening, but like what is it about nature in general, that like with gardening you're digging your claws into the earth, I mean, what is it about just being outside and having that moment to yourself? What does that mean to you?
I mean, it really means a lot. Like, I'm also part Native American, and so the idea of being with the dirt at some point, barefoot in that dirt and being connected to the core of the earth is something that's very significant for me. I'm part Cherokee and Blackfoot on my mother's side, so I feel like that's something that and also just the sun. There's even if there's not sun, just the breezes, experience of whatever's happening. And I do find a lot of peace, like no matter what's going on with my day. I could be in my car, and just if you're stressed out, or if I'm stressed out, just looking at the clouds makes a difference for me, especially as it gets towards the end of the day. And something about Rochester, I don't know, this summer we've been blessed with some gorgeous skylines and some gorgeous cloud sun action happening. So for me, that's very peaceful. And just no matter where I am, I can look up to the sky and feel that. Or, you know, if I have access to dirt, I will definitely be there barefoot. And my husband makes fun of me. He calls me a black neck because I'm just like living in the city with my bare feet on the ground. Like, what's wrong with you? We're near Ebony
So,
Deep. What's wrong with
so Haya, is your name um like from the Native American part? Like, what does your name mean? It's so
No,
pretty.
actually, it's North African because I'm also part Crew from Côte d'Ivory. That's where
Oh,
my great grandfather is from. So it's an Arab, uh, I guess not Swahili, but it's a North African dialect. I cannot remember which one, but it's like a greeting, and it means greatest light at dawn. Or I'm sorry, that's my daughter's high noon. Greatest light at high noon, or a greeting of some sort. So
it's awesome. It's so nice. I don't.
yeah.
My name doesn't have as beautiful of a meaning. I don't even know what my name means, to be honest. I did at some point, but I forget. So what are we doing? What I mean, what does your future creative plans look like? So you're I know you're working on, producing and you're writing. Do you have any plans for a new record or like a solo record coming out?
Yeah, I do. So I haven't, the creative bug is just coming back to me, and I'd like to say that it's kind of at this point, like after a long illness, I'm just now keeping down water. So it's very a minimalist vibe that I'm kind of feeling with projects that I'm starting to write creatively, and finding the place of joy within darkness is where I am. So there's some songs in the works, and I'm excited. I've also got a couple of collab things I'm working on. One is with Noah from Pine Needle Soul. I'm singing on one of his tracks. I think he's going by the name No Offense right now. So yeah, check him out on Instagram too. And
Cool.
yeah, where, where I'll
And
be.
where's the best place our audience could be directed to your music? Where could they hear more about you, learn more about you?
Yeah, right now it's really Facebook and Instagram. So I'm working. The website is in the works. But for previous projects, you could check out Vanishing Sun because the stuff that I did in that band really is close to my heart, and I'm proud of that project. So vanishingsunband.com, or Zahaya for all the future, all the current and future stuff. It should be Zahaya on Facebook, or Zahaya doing on Instagram.
I love that. That's so good. Oh, Zahaya, you rock. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing you with us. And we're going to hear another song from Zahaya in the end of our program. Before I introduce Lindsay to you all, I just want to throw out a shout out to some of our sponsors. We are in our third season, which is crazy. This is episode 53. And we've been really fortunate to gain some local sponsorships to kind of keep us propelled throughout these times. So, shout out to Electronic Merchant Systems of New York. If you guys need any help with accepting credit card payments, make sure you see the charge card guys. Big thank you to Compeer Rochester for all their support in our community and for supporting our program. And make sure you get your Friday night pizza orders in with Salvatore's Old Fashioned Pizzeria. Lindsay Cray, you wonderful thing. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm very impressed with Sahaya's interview, and I'm really wishing that I had gotten a chance to know her prior to this.
Whoa, now you guys know each other, right? So it's all good from here.
Yeah, she was hitting all the good feels, all of them. I was. It wasn't a diatribe. I was listening to the whole thing, being like, I'm right there with you, girl.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think this topic is, when I found you, I just thought I love what you do because I'll tell you a little bit more towards the end about, like how I discovered, nature to be so healing, but I didn't realize ecotherapy was a thing. Can you tell our audience a little bit about you, what you do, and what ecotherapy is?
Sure. So a lot of people have different names for it. It's ecotherapy, ecotherapy, nature-based therapy. Another niche component of that would be adventure-based therapy. Those are all kind of factions of the same concept, which is the healing power of nature. And I think we have been really fortunate that one of the small shining rays of sunlight that we've gotten out of this whole pandemic thing is people have begun to realize how important just that reconnection with nature actually is. And
Mhm.
Zahaya was talking about, loving the fall season, also my favorite season of all time, fall. And you were talking about looking at the trees, and we were talking about face to the sun and feeling the breeze on your skin, and even that connection with the dirt. And those are all things that are not they're not made up. We don't just think we like those things. Our body craves those connections for a lot of different reasons. We have evolved with the earth, not outside of that. And sometimes when I say that, people kind of snicker, but my background, my undergrad and my graduate degree was in environmental science. So I come from like a research background where you can't say anything unless it's, backed up by research and hypotheses
Facts.
and proof
Yeah.
and facts. So um, the more I realized that the work that I was doing with just taking people outside to learn nature-based skills, how impactful that was organically just to people's mental health, the more I realized that this is something that I probably should dig deeper into. And lo and behold, um, the universe has just kind of put that lesson in our lap for the last 6 months with COVID. We've really come around to that as a society. And I think I'm just trying to, myself and my business partner, Meredith, we're trying to get this organization, Tribe Ecotherapy, up and running as a service for the community because people need it. And it's a serious thing, you know?
Yeah, and we're so fortunate where we're located, like I just we have so many beautiful nature preserves. Like I live in Webster, and I've been living in my house for 2 years, and I discovered all these trails, nature preserves like near me. And when I started bike riding, I bought a crappy bike off of Craigslist, and a bike seat that sits in front of me. So when I'm riding, I have a 4-year-old son, so my son sits in front of me, and we're both like riding like this together, and he's in front of me. He sees everything, and I bought it when he was 1.5, and I started, I didn't want to invest in a bike because I was like, what if he doesn't like it, kind of thing. But I noticed the impact just fresh air had on my child, and as
Yeah.
we're passing things, like I'm noticing things in, that I drive by every single day, for the first time, and I'm
Sure.
noticing the beautiful, the trees around me, like I'm noticing nature, and then I get to ride through, and that's even before I get to the trails, So I started biking a lot, and throughout COVID, once the weather started getting warm enough, like I didn't even care, like that was like my sanity, like
Sure.
I was
Yeah.
like, I just need to be in touch somehow. Like, not only am I being active, I'm doing something with my son, and we're creating a memory together, but I'm also opening both our eyes and vision to what's around us,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. And that actually, so that again plays right into like that full sensory immersion experience. When you're in your car, you're in your car, right? And you can see things, but you're moving way too fast to observe. Plus, technically, we should have our eyes on the road. So most of us are
Yeah.
focusing on the road and not what's around us. We don't have that freedom like we do on a bike or on a walk or something like that. And to the point of your conversation earlier with Sahaya, things like, I'll go back to putting your hands in the dirt or your feet in the dirt. You know, there is mountains of biological evidence that shows that, for example, we have synapses in our brain that are directly connected with, sensors in our skin and all over our body. And when our skin becomes connected with or in contact, direct contact with soil, there are microbes that live in the soil that when we come in contact with that, sends a signal right back to our brain that triggers a release of serotonin. So it's not a random thing. Zahaya's experience is not like a unique experience. That's how we're supposed to feel. The same way when we breathe in fresh air, like that absorption of all that fresh intake of oxygen is what, drops our cortisol levels and keeps us calm and focused. It helps us expand rather than contract. And we need that too. Even the trees, if you're going for a walk in the woods, trees give off chemical pheromones that if you're exposed to them for a little less than an hour can have an impact on decreasing your blood pressure for like 3 to 4 days at a time, just in less than an hour's worth of impact with outside, with nature. So there's, like I said, there's mountains of evidence to prove that. But if you want to just step away from all the hard evidence, I'm sure anybody that's listening to this podcast would agree that if they walked outside today for all of 10 minutes and just sat or stood with their eyes closed and just absorbed it, they feel a little better. And that's, again, it's not coincidental. It's something that we need.
Isn't
Yeah.
it amazing how, like, how big an impact that 10 minutes that you just mentioned could make, but
Yeah.
how easily dismissed like 10 minutes is. Like people be like, "Oh, I don't nobody got time for that
Who's got
kind of
time?
thing." Yeah. I don't got 10 minutes, all right?
Yes.
Like I'm going to go do, and it's so hard to literally I'm guilty of this still, even having the awareness of like what nature does for me. Um I feel like sometimes, it's like that 10 minutes, like it's not going to kill me, but my mind just can't stop. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're just so conditioned to keep going and keep doing everything,
Mm-hmm.
for everyone and everything but ourselves sometimes,
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
that's a problem that I think we're all dealing with. A lot of times, Amanda, that happens when our brain doesn't want to settle and be in the present moment, because that would mean that we actually have to process all that stuff that's bringing up those feelings, all those fears, the stressors that we're dealing with, especially now. Rochester is being rocked by some seriously intense, movement with the Black Lives Matter issues, which obviously need to be addressed. But a lot of that stuff is heavy and scary and difficult to process. And you gotta make time for yourself. Like give your heart a listen. It's important
yeah,
to get there. Yeah.
yeah, that's outstanding advice. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes like, and like what Zahaya and I were saying earlier, it's like there's just so many, like it's just like one big issue piling up on the next,
Mm-hmm.
and it is so heavy, and it's like nothing is more important than the other. They're all really important issues at hand. And it's like, how do I even sort through this? Like it's when I think about it, it really overwhelms me. It makes me feel
Yeah.
anxiety. It makes me feel scared. And, I don't want to neglect the news, but I realize like I can't watch this every day.
Sure. Your
Like
cup is
because
full.
it's not healthy. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to cut the cord somewhere. And, like instead of doing this, I'm going to go outside and kick the ball around for 10 minutes and go cycling, like do certain things just to kind of remove myself from that. Um, Lindsay, tell me, you spent time in Puerto Rico, right? I read that. What were you doing out there? You were there for a little while, right?
I was there for about 6 years. Yeah.
Wow.
I It was a random call to a job down there. I had just graduated undergrad, and a major professor of mine invited myself and 4 or 5 other students in our cohort to go help some graduate students of his. And it was supposed to be for 3 months, and it wound up being 6 years. Not the work, but I stayed for 6 years.
Yeah.
And you know, learned a lot about myself and about the world. And, it gave me a really good opportunity to expand outside my bubble, if you will, because if you spend enough time in Rochester, it can really become this bubble that we don't even think that we're in. And then all of a sudden, it pops. But
Yeah.
No, Puerto Rico was an incredible experience. I spent some time working as an eco tour guide. Um, I definitely hit my bottom of the barrel when I was working there, and I decided, the research project was over with, and I wanted to stay, and I wound up, waitressing in a bar in San Juan, and you know, uh, helping people deliver packages and things like that. But eventually, I ended up working for an ecotourism company and learned a lot about the culture and the people and the world. Puerto Rico is an incredible mixing pot of all kinds of languages and people and perspectives, and it was a life changing 6 years. And there's a lot of times when I missed it, or sorry, when I still do miss it. Yeah,
Did you spend a lot of time in the rainforest, like studying,
most of
or
the time.
yeah, yeah,
Yes. So the research station that we were located at was up in El Yunque, and that's in the northeastern part of the island. So I did a lot of just traipsing around the rainforest there and getting completely muddy and dirty and wet and sweaty and gross, but it was worth every minute of it. And then when I started working for this ecotourism company, we spent all kinds of time everywhere, rappelling down canyons and doing sea kayaking and hiking. And I got to meet a lot of the local people from the mountains, the inner part of the island. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in the rainforest. Yeah.
El Junque is amazing. I was there 2 years ago. I mean, I've been there twice. I'm half Puerto Rican, so I had some family that lived out there for a little
Hmm.
while, and I went there a few times during my childhood, and then as an adult for the first time, Beau and I went 2 years ago, and we stayed right by El Junque, and we um, drove in and we got to see, we went to that. Do you remember the name of the tower, the highest tower in the rainforest?
There is a large tower in El Toro Negro,
No,
but
I don't.
that's not in El Junque. It's just outside of El Junque.
No, I can't. So there were two towers, and we went to the second one, and we like had just enough time to go. Like we literally had like 25 minutes, and Beau had his drone, and he wanted to like fly his drone up from the top. We got the most amazing picture, like just going all around, and it actually hangs, in our bedroom. It's like wall size, but
Wow.
not really wall size, but it's just to be surrounded by those treetops and
Hmm.
to hear the sounds of nature, the animals, like to hear the coqui frogs,
Hmm.
like it's
Yep.
just, I still can't even believe, like sometimes you just stand in nature and you're like, I can't even believe I forget this exists,
It's so
that
much
this is
bigger
a
than
part
us.
of life, that
Yeah.
yeah, like this is where life began, like this is not, it's not, the lives that I mean, there's just so much more to life than just the stuff we are so used to doing in our daily routines, and it sometimes takes like that one breath, that fresh breath of air to like make you realize that. And Puerto Rico did that for me. And there's a lot of, I didn't have to go to Puerto Rico for that. I mean, there's stuff like that in our backyard here, Corbett's Glen, in
Absolutely.
Rochester. I
Or if you're
love the
living in
waterfalls.
if you're living in Webster and you haven't been there yet, Gosnell Big Woods and Whiting Road
Yep.
Forest, those are two places that. So when I was living in Puerto Rico, I definitely felt that connection to the forest, but I have definitely felt similar connection, similar like energy, just walking around in Gosnell, for example. That place holds some really, really incredible spirit. Those trees are that's what they call it, Gosnell Big Woods, because those trees are gigantic and they're
Yeah.
they're old. Those oaks are probably 200.
100 years, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they've
think
been
they're a
around for
little over
longer.
100 years old because I ride my bike there sometimes, and
Yeah.
like I see the sign. Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love it. It's amazing, you know, and it's just like sometimes you just need to step out and be like, okay, I'm gonna remove myself from these devices. I'm gonna just take in this moment and a moment of clarity, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
yourself and the earth, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that, you know, this is where life began and that these things still exist and that there is peace there to be had, you know.
Yeah. And let's also, like, I just want to throw this out there for other folks too who don't necessarily have ease of access to a Gosnell Big Woods like we're fortunate to have. You know, maybe they don't have transportation to get there or something like that. There are a number of green spaces right in the city. So I live in the city right off of South Ave. I live on Caroline Street. And so I have Highland Park right like
Mhm.
10 minutes up the street from me. But then there's also Pinnacle Hill, which is like a 10-minute bike ride in the other direction. And then there's the walk along the river and the canal. Um, and so you can do all of those things, right? But you don't necessarily even need to have a park to access. If you're just if you're just feeling the heaviness, like the weight of things, and we all are, I am too. If you just need that moment, if you need that connection, even stepping outside and like maybe sitting underneath a tree. I know it sounds like crunchy, right? When I say that, it sounds a little crunchy, but the fact of the matter is that a tree is a tree is a tree, no matter where you are. It still does for you what any tree, whether you're in the rainforest or, you know, in the desert or wherever you are. Trees are amazing things, and grass is it still holds the same dirt and the same microbes that are still good for your skin, and the sun is still as healing as it is whether you're standing on Ave D or whether you're out in Gosnell Big Woods. So don't limit yourself because you think that, oh, well, you know, I can't get to a park today. Like, just go stand right outside your front door. That's all you need.
You know, the one thing that I notice about nature too is like you had mentioned your senses, you know, like I definitely feel like it restores your senses. You know, like I was brought up in Long Island, you know, so being around water is really important to me. You know, like I grew up going to the beaches and every time I go back, like I could just close my eyes and smell the salt in the air, you know, feel the moisture on my skin, feel the sun beat, you know, like how just how it feels, you know, how it feels, how it smells, how it tastes on your lips, you know, like the
Mm-hmm.
sand between my toes, like all those things, you know, audibly, like what I'm hearing, you know, the sound of the waves crashing. Instantly, I'm put at ease, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm able to like to close my eyes and not have a thousand, you know, things like swirl in my mind, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I think for anybody to find that place, it doesn't necessarily have to be at the beach. It could be walking in a forest. It could be, you know, maybe even walking in a city. A city is still an environment, and like you're saying, you know, like, you know, there's anything, you know, like to find that moment of clarity and peace with yourself, where you're just able to close your eyes and listen and take in all those sensory,
Yeah.
all those senses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like the list goes on. You can go to Genesee Valley Park. That place is gigantic. It stretches for what feels like miles. There's the Conky's Corners, the whole trail that follows the train tracks down there. And even oh God, I wish I could remember that corner. It's it's down in like um the the Puerto Rican neighborhood where the Ibero building is, where where they do all the broadcasting for the Ibero radio station. It goes right past there. That trail goes like almost 12 miles.
Wow.
Um, and that's a really cool trail that you can walk on that connects straight through a whole bunch of neighborhoods, so you can hop on it anywhere. And then there's the whole biking trail that crosses over the bridges, and you can see the waterfalls, and you can see down into like that area where everybody goes down to fish on the Genesee River. So, I mean, you can find it anywhere. You know, no reason to be without it.
Absolutely. Lindsay, I mean, ultimately, what do you wish to achieve in your business venture? Like, what do you want to see?
I just want to see people healed. It's that simple. You know, there was a mention earlier about like just going with what the universe brings you and feeling that connection that, you know, of energy that connects all of us. And those are like the two main foundations that kind of drive me forward as well. That um, Rochester is this community that needs more than just clinicians, and we work with clinicians, but rather than sitting with a clinician in a building surrounded by 4 cement walls, we should be working on healing ourselves outside where there's much more powerful connection to that source of healing, and that is that thing that we all are, which is a part of the earth. So ecotherapy is a pretty common practice, happens throughout Europe. It's been going on for a lot longer than I think most of us realize. There's lots of established clinical processes that have come from European countries, Denmark, Switzerland, the UK, all these places. We simply adapted that and we brought it here, and we're working on providing that service to the community. And I want to see Rochester begin to grow again, and begin to process this sadness and this weight and find a way through that. And I think that this is my way of being able to give back. I'm a Rochester native, was born and raised here, left for a number of years, but for whatever reason, the universe brought me back here again. And this is what I have to be able to give back. Yeah.
So do you have any upcoming like promotions or like events that you're hosting, like a nature walk, or do you have anything coming up that you could kind of plug?
Oh, I would love to plug an event specific for Tribe Ecotherapy, but really right now we're working on trying to build some interest in kids programs. So it doesn't have to be, it's not a clinical program, but it's essentially we're working with kids outside and almost like in a forest school context, but we're teaching social and emotional growth. So we're not teaching like school-based curriculum and like math and science, but we're working on social emotional growth, and we're hoping to maybe start that here in the city and potentially out in Fairport and Penfield, because we've heard some interest out there as well. We don't have dates for that yet because we've just kind of put the proverbial toe in the pool now that COVID, people kind of have their feet underneath them with what COVID protocols are, even kind of.
Yeah.
So we're working on that, and you can keep checking back to our website, which is Tribe, TRYBE, like tribe, tribeecotherapy.com, all one word, TRYBE ecotherapy.com. We're also on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and all those social media places. So we'll have lots of updates about that. But I'm also, I actually am working with Hunt Country Vineyards to do a nature immersion program and an intro to wilderness skills program. Both are happening in October. So a side hustle of my own is I teach wilderness survival, and I do that mostly in fall semesters for RIT. But now I'm offering a couple of programs to the public through Hunt Country Vineyards, and they've got an amazing piece of land to do that with. So those are coming up on, let me see if I can get the dates out there. One is October 17th, and the next one is the following weekend on October 24th. Both of those are Saturdays, and your fee also comes with a free afternoon cocktail as well as a lunch. So provided by Hunt Country Vineyards. So and those are all day programs. Great reasons to get outside and come and hang out with me for a little while. But again, we're gonna kind of move forward slowly with figuring out how and what the community needs from us at this time, and try to do some actual clinical group programs as well.
Well, amazing, Lindsay. The community is lucky to have you. We're glad you're back. So,
Thank you
good
very much.
luck. Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Good luck on your journey, and I hope to meet you in person someday and experience. I'd like to actually look into your program for my son. I don't know if he's
Great.
too young, but we'll talk about it later.
Sure.
So make sure you guys like Tribe Ecotherapy on Instagram, on Facebook, and Zahaya as well, because all these little likes, just that one click does a lot for some of us, So please take a moment. Zahaya, you want to close us out with one of your jams?
Absolutely. And Lindsay, I'm gonna hit you up later. Selfish ways that you love cause pain. This habit of just needing all of my fears and my good vibe energy. I'm tapped out. Hey, hey, say life, bring me out of my form and my bubbles bursting out. See you been sucking me dry, I can't cry out. Sahara, this lost art of reciprocity has souls dehydrated. Faces fat cause I can't go down low. My temples raising me up. Yes, refresh, gladden my thoughts. Just need to breathe, take some time for those self-care promises. I'm tapped out. Hey, hey, say life, bring me out of my form and my bubbles bursting out. See you been sucking me dry, I can't cry out. Sahara, needs of the needless, heed this faceless mockery. But take this fact cause I can't go down low. Real sweet. Bring it back inside. Bringing my heart down. Soul child. Hey, hey. Bringing my heart down. Soul child. Hey, hey.
Yeah, girl. Zahaya, you rock it, girl. Thank you so much to Zahaya and to Lindsay for the real talk and Zahaya for your music. So I'm going to share something a little bit personal. My realization of the healing powers of nature came to me at probably one of the darker points of my life. Year 29 of life for Amanda was a big year. I was fresh out of a divorce and coming out of, the natural wounds that came along with that. And I was on my path. I already discovered what I wanted for myself, but I had a lot of changes that had to come along with the change of, I just basically made the vow to myself that I wasn't going to enter the next decade of my life unhappy. I recognized that there was an opportunity to start fresh, to start strong, and in turn also recognized that it was going to require making some significant changes. So where do you begin, right? I sat there and I began with a 5-point mental checklist of basically the things that bring me joy in my life. So number one for me was love. I wanted to focus on the relationships around me, my love for my family, my friends. I was starting to date again, and I was building a new partnership with somebody. So I wanted to make sure that, even with all the wounds that I had, that I was being mindful to my partner, and that we were gonna move beyond that, and that he wasn't the same person as the last. Number two is music. That's pretty obvious for anybody who knows me, but music's everything. It's my heart, it's my soul, it's what makes me feel good. It's from a performance perspective, like Zahaya, I know you know this, But there's no better feeling than being on stage and performing for people that are listening, and to actually have an opportunity to voice my feelings and thoughts. Number 3 was travel. Getting lost in a new place, the power of resetting and kind of leaving that load behind for a moment, seeing new things. Experience was, which is number 4. You know, experience in food, art, culture, meeting new people, talking to fresh, talking to fresh people, in your life. And number 5 was big, and it was nature. For me, I realized every time I stepped out in nature, it wasn't just it. The benefit was beyond the exercise. It brought me to a place of clarity, and I'd start to make it a habit to discover these new and beautiful places around me in my own neighborhood, and to seek out those local waterfalls, to strap my guitar on my back and to take a walk in the forest. Every time I did that, I'd reflect on the beauty around me, and my mind would be at one again with the earth, and it would restore my senses in so many ways that, in ways that other things couldn't. Turning it all off for a minute allowed me to breathe. So, my advice, not that you have to take it, but any helpful suggestions, would be take the opportunity to walk to walk a little bit more, to spend time at the sea or in the mountains or in the forest or under that tree, in the city, to plant a garden, to swim in the ocean, to hike, to cycle, have a picnic, spend time with your family or pets outdoors. All of these activities, they provide quality time with our earth mother, and they hold us in her naturally healing embrace. So slow down, because you owe it to yourself to enjoy an undisturbed moment of clarity. I wish you all an amazing weekend. Afternoon Cocktail is now available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music. Go ask Alexa about Afternoon Cocktail Talk Show, and you guys catch up on the first 27 episodes while we catch up on getting the rest of it all uploaded there. And big thank you again to Beau Productions. Shout out to James Farley of Northwestern Mutual, to Maiden Voyage Studios in Fairport. Thank you again to Compeer Rochester's, Salvatore's Pizza, and Electronic Margin Systems. You guys all be well and take good care of yourselves.